Build a mind so strong it scares people. Picture this. You wake up with a plan. You know what you're supposed to do today. But before the day even starts, your mind already feels tired. You check your phone. You hesitate. You delay. And somehow, without a clear reason, the day slips away again. At night, you tell yourself, tomorrow will be different. But deep down, you already know the truth. The problem isn't time. It isn't intelligence. It is an opportunity. It's that your mind collapses under pressure. And what makes this worse is watching other people, calm, focused, unbothered, move through life like nothing shakes them. They don't talk much. They don't explain themselves. They don't seek validation. They just move with a quiet certainty. And that contrast makes you uncomfortable because it forces a question most people avoid. What if the real gap between you and them isn't talent, but mental strength? My name is Zay, and I spend far too much time thinking about mental strength, discipline, and how the human mind breaks under pressure. If you are someone who struggles with focus, consistency, self-doubt, or staying disciplined when no one is watching, make sure you hit the subscribe button and give this video a like if it helps you. The dangerous myth about mental strength. Here's the first assumption we need to challenge. Most people believe mental strength looks loud. They think it looks like confidence on display, aggressive energy, constant positivity. But that's not strength. That's stimulation. True mental strength is quiet. And that's why it scares people. Because when someone is mentally strong, they don't react the way others expect. They don't panic. They don't over-explain. They don't need to prove anything. And humans are deeply uncomfortable around people they can't emotionally read or control. That discomfort is not accidental. It's psychological. Why mental strength makes people uncomfortable. Let's talk psychology for a moment. According to research in social psychology, humans constantly look for emotional feedback from others to regulate their own behavior. This is called social mirroring. In simple terms, people feel safe when others react predictably. So when you stay calm, when criticized, when ignored, when challenged, when pressured, you break that feedback loop. And when that happens, people feel unstable. That's why mentally strong people are often labeled as cold, arrogant, intimidating, hard to read. Not because they are those things, but because they don't emotionally leak. And most people rely on emotional leakage to feel in control. The real reason. Most minds are weak. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Most people don't have weak minds because they're incapable. They have weak minds because they've trained them to be weak. Think about it. Every time you avoid discomfort, seek distraction, quit when motivation fades, let emotions dictate action, you are reinforcing one message to your brain. I don't need to endure. Neuroscience shows that the brain rewires itself based on repeated behavior. This is called neuroplasticity. So if your default response to difficulty is escape, your brain becomes optimized for avoidance. That's not a character flaw, that's conditioning. And the scary part? Most people never reverse it. Discipline is not motivation. Here's what most people don't realize. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is neurological. Motivation spikes when you feel inspired. Discipline functions when you feel nothing. Studies on habit formation show that consistent behavior relies more on identity and systems than emotional drive. In other words, mentally strong people don't ask, do I feel like it? They ask, is this who I am? That shift alone separates people permanently because emotions fluctuate. Identity doesn't, unless you rewrite it. Why strong minds feel dangerous? You might be wondering, why would this scare people? Because a strong mind is uncontrollable. A mentally strong person can't be rushed, can't be guilted, can't be manipulated with fear, can't be destabilized with opinion, and humans instinctively fear what they can't influence. This is why silence is powerful. This is why restraint feels threatening. This is why calmness under pressure is unsettling. It signals autonomy, and autonomy is rare. The internal war. Most people never win. The hardest battles are not external, they're internal. You're not fighting the world. You're fighting your own impulses, your urge to quit, your need for approval, your discomfort with boredom, your fear of being misunderstood. Psychologists call this ego resistance. The ego wants comfort, validation, and certainty. Mental strength requires the opposite: discomfort, solitude, uncertainty. That's why most people never develop it. Not because they can't, but because they won't tolerate the process. but I'm not naturally disciplined. Now you might be thinking, okay, but some people are just built differently. That's not true. A 2018 study published in Psychological Science found that people with high self-control don't rely on willpower more than others. They simply structure their environment and decisions differently. In other words, they don't fight temptation, they remove it. Mental strength isn't about constant resistance, it's about intelligent design, and that's where things get interesting. The silent habits of mentally strong people. Mentally strong people do a few things consistently that most people overlook. First, they limit emotional input. They are selective with what they watch, listen to, and engage with. Second, they embrace boredom. They don't panic when stimulation disappears. They let their mind stabilize. Third, they act before they feel ready. Not recklessly, but decisively. And most importantly, they keep promises to themselves. Every kept promise reinforces self-trust. Every broken promise weakens it. Over time, that compounds. Why most people stay mentally fragile. Here's the truth most people avoid. Mental weakness is comfortable. It gives you excuses, it gives you sympathy, it gives you a reason to stop. Mental strength removes those exits. And once you develop it, you can't unsee your own potential. That realization scares people more than failure. Because failure can be blamed on circumstances. Discipline exposes responsibility. How to start building a mind that doesn't break. Let's make this practical. You don't build a strong mind by doing extreme things. You build it by doing small, uncomfortable things consistently. Here are 3 starting points. First, do one hard thing every day, on purpose. Not dramatic, just uncomfortable. Second, stop explaining yourself. The need to justify is a sign of insecurity. Third, finish what you start, even when the excitement is gone. Especially when the excitement is gone. That's where strength is built. The moment everything changes. There's a moment that happens quietly. You realize you're no longer reacting, you're responding. You're no longer chasing motivation. You're operating from discipline. You're no longer trying to impress. You're focused on alignment, and people notice. Not because you announce it, but because your presence changes. You move slower, you speak less, you hesitate less internally. That's when people start projecting. That's when they say, you've changed, you're different, you're intense. What they mean is, they can't influence you anymore. Final thought. A strong mind is not aggressive. It's grounded. It doesn't seek attention. It commands respect without asking. And it's built quietly, over time, through discipline, restraint, and self-mastery. If you commit to that path, you won't need to scare people. Your consistency will do it for you. If this helped you think differently, subscribe to the channel. Not for motivation, but for clarity, discipline, and long-term growth. Because the strongest minds are built in silence.